All right,
Cool.
how you doing,
Hi.
man? Thanks for coming
Yeah,
in on a
good.
Saturday.
Well, that's fine.
It's I feel like during the betas and like the kind of launch phase of the
Yeah,
game,
anything goes.
like my sense of time and days becomes wildly
blurred.
off kilter.
Yeah.
What's been happening for you over the past, I guess, 24 hours ish? Have you been watching streams, playing?
I've been jumping in the odd stream here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a chance to play yet. I'm renovating at home, so I've been working. But
Cool,
yeah.
renovating, building a sick,
kitchen.
Oh, I was going to say a sick gaming setup.
Oh man, I wish.
One day.
Yeah. It feels nice to be here with a table and everything.
It's
for
nice,
once.
right?
Yeah. No.
You're not kind of like
jank sofa.
rolling around on a sofa. I mean, that was fun.
Yeah.
But,
it's cozy.
that's the thing. Hamish, please tell us where to report the specific bugs on the forums.
Yes, UB forums.
Would be great. But yes, we'll be here. I don't know for how long talking to Frederick. Maybe you need to leave at 12 and then we go back over there.
See when maintenance is over.
We'll see what happens. But we'll be here to chat about a bunch of stuff. But we haven't had a chance to talk about all of the features and things that you touch in detail, and we're kind of getting closer to the time where that's appropriate. But for the people who are just joining us now because they're like, oh, maintenance, what's going on? There's a few things that have been happening and are attempting to be fixed during this maintenance. There have been some crashes on PC. We play on PC here, so you may have seen some of those on the stream. So we'll see if that fix works, and that should be coming through after the maintenance. The debris that blocks a certain path in the Grand Washington Hotel that you explode, what is happening is the client is telling you visually that that debris is gone, but the server disagrees and still says that there is a collision there. So you will visibly, your player will go up to it, the client will show you that there's nothing there, but the server says no. So that will hopefully be fixed. And also the NPCs not spawning in the initial White House skirmish is hopefully fixed as well. Even though there have been workarounds for that one.
There was a workaround posted.
But that's not what we want. We want to have the proper experience. We have a lot of new people to the Division, which is super exciting. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? Like, I know that the Division is a deep and vast game, and some things can be confusing for first-time people, or folks like myself who aren't even first-time, and you see a whole lot of stuff, right? It's one of those games that takes, diving in and getting stuck in to really kind of understand how those systems work.
You can lose yourself in
There's
it,
a lot.
for sure.
There's a lot there. So what we'll do today is we have Frederick here, who is we've called you weapons guy before. I don't know
for a long time.
I don't know if that's demeaning
it's
or
nah, that's fine.
Because
that's stuck.
You are so much more than weapons guy, but that is why people will be interested in what you have to say, because you work on a lot of the systems that excite people or are at the core of what the Division experience is.
Guns and gear.
Guns and gear. So I mean, there's a whole lot in Division 2. What is, at least for you, the first things that you're most excited about the changes for Division 2? I mean, that's hard. But
I think the ability to address pacing, just get like a different combat rhythm going. We've learned so much, and then all the new AI. The enemies are just fantastic this time around. We've managed to get so much good gameplay out of the new enemy types, right? And then for me, coming from my perspective, just the clean slate of being able to start from fresh and design new talons and new gear and retweak all the guns and just do everything over.
Because I know that was one of the questions that people had when we announced, hey, we're doing the Division 2. They were like, why don't you just update the Division 1? And I get that sentiment. I mean, it's I understand where that comes from. But what is it with a sequel that we are now free to do because we have committed to doing it in this certain way?
Well,
what are the benefits?
Stuff that we've redone from scratch, like we've redone all of the weapon recalls, we've made completely new enemy factions, right? Like we've done completely new system for gear and completely new talents.
Why is that good though? Because
because we've learned everything from the first game. We've observed that game for like how many years is it? 3 years or something?
Well, I mean, it released 2016 March 15.
So we learned a lot. We faltered along the way. We rose to new successes. We changed things, but all of that learning we can take and apply here in terms of designing all of these things and implementing them and going back and refactoring netcode and physics and all kinds of things that we can do, hopefully. right.
Yeah, and of course this is why we do the whole testing phase as well, because this allows us to identify a lot of these issues which exist, but we can hopefully fix in these phases. And we've already got so many awesome fixes in.
Yeah, and like Yannick mentioned, the beta is a very recent build, but as that build is being specially custom made to have the the limitations of the smaller area and leveling you up to end game and all of these special fixes, we keep working on the main game in the meantime. So it's not the latest version. So there are things that have already been fixed for launch that aren't in this beta, even though it's quite a representative of what it's going to feel like to play.
Cool. So there's systemically, in terms of the way that a lot of what you work on is experienced by people in the game. We don't have just the three main stats anymore. It's
right.
How does stats work in Division 2? Because it's in terms of that system.
What we were aiming to accomplish is something that's a little bit more readable. We like to talk about honest numbers. So like when your gun says 1,000, it should be 1,000 when it pops up in the scrolling combat text when you hit someone as well. And firearms and electronics and stamina, they all needed to be then converted into something else, like health and damage and things based on level. So it was a bit mathy, right?
Yeah,
so I tried to surface things. So when it's like
mathy for a game called The Division, but sure.
Fun. Right. I always wish we did an expansion called The Addition, but that's a different
the long division. Yeah. Next time.
So we wanted more close to the surface numbers without reducing the depth. So we could remove some of those layers that weren't needed. So instead of giving you stamina, we can give you health and armor. Instead of giving you firearms, we can give you weapon damage.
Okay.
And that's more readable and understandable without losing any of the build diversity, so to speak.
So how do we explain this in the easiest way? Because you have, what are our core stats that we need to look out for when we pick up a piece of gear? What are we interested in?
So I think that at the very base, you're going to want to know that you have decent armor, right? Because a level 8 piece will have higher armor than a level 7 piece, right? Mostly. You can get crap rolls in some edge cases, but mostly. So you want gear of the right armor.
Yeah.
And that's why that's the big number on your gear. And then
you have an armor bar, which is a visual representation of that number, I guess.
And that's just all of the points accumulated. It's just straight hit points, right? That's exactly how much damage you can take. It doesn't have any multipliers or any of that stuff that we had in the last game that you had to know about. So it's just the straight damage you can take. And then on weapons, it's you want damage, which comes with level of the gun, right? So it's just straight correlates to that with a little bit of a roll randomized. But then you're looking for your type of gun that you want. That's the most important thing. So that's why we moved away from this DPS number we had in the last game. It's because it could sometimes be really misleading to compare a shotgun and a sniper.
Totally.
Because you use them for such different things. So saying that one is better than the other, well, that depends on where you're going to use it. So we don't try to do that for you now.
Because when you make that calculation of DPS, it makes some very clear assumptions.
Yeah.
That, one, you're hitting all of your shots, and that you're reloading at certain times, and these sorts of things. But because effective DPS is something that is attributed to by a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I think back to other games like MMOs and things, a lot of the things that were overlooked were like run speed.
Yeah, and then
which ups your effective DPS by a whole lot.
And then your ability to proc your talents, and like you say, the ability to hit things, the ability to reacquire targets, how much you can actually stay up and shoot. Like it can be a misleading number. So now we just present the damage a shot does, how fast the gun can fire, and its mag size. And then you can see its reload speed and range and stuff like that. But just the pure numbers, which I think at this point, people are so familiar with those things being presented when they pick a gun in a non-RPG shooter, like, I don't know, Battlefield or Call of Duty or something. Like, they can pick between different guns at this point. I think everybody's capable of that. So we try not to convert that into some math number behind the scenes.
Okay. I know people are asking a lot of questions in chat, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I just want to
we will have time to
we're gonna
do
have a lot
some
of
Q&A.
time.
It's no worries.
Stick around, and I will definitely take a bunch of questions and throw them at Frederick. But so if I'm looking for damage, I check out the weapon damage and all of that. If I'm looking for survivability, I have armor. Is there are there any stats beyond that? So I have my armor bar.
Yeah.
Right, and then once
and then you have your health bar, which is also just hit points. So 1 point of health will save you just as much as 1 point of armor. In fact, a little bit more, because health, as you know, can regen while you're in combat, right? If you sit in cover. Armor generally doesn't, unless you have talents and things that make them do that. But at the baseline, you have to repair your armor, whereas health regens, right? But your health plus your armor, that's how much damage you can take before you die, right? And you can compare that to what damage your gun does, and then you can sort of start to get an idea, right?
Yeah.
And that's quite different from Division 1, where we had armor that was a mitigation. So like your armor meant some multiplier of damage was being reduced or whatever, right? And that was sometimes hard to relate to. Now it's just straight hit points and bars, right?
Okay. Much more binary.
It's more binary, but it's also more understandable. Like you can see that number and go, okay, this is how much health I have.
Cool.
Right?
That's good to know. So then you have skill power as well. That's a little bit different.
It's very, very different than last time. We're taking a bit of a gamble here, but I can explain why though. So
let's do skill power. Yeah.
So you mod your skills, and those mods require power to run.
Yeah. So if I attempt to mod something and I don't have the required skill power,
then that mod is off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll still take up the
it can sit. It can sit there,
but it won't be active.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, you're trying to look for mods and that you want for your skills. They can do, and the bonus of that is that in Division 1, since we're comparing, everything on your skill just scaled right up.
Yeah.
Whereas now, maybe you want a drone that has lots of health, whereas I want a drone that has lots of power, or lots of duration, or short cooldown. And you can mod them for what you want, right? So there's lots more flexibility in that.
Cool. Taking a step back, because a lot of the things that we forget to talk about go back to some of the systems have changed and some of the words that we use change. So you have skills.
Yeah.
They have variants.
Variants is what we call them. Yeah.
All right, and some of those are unlocked through shade tech, and some of them are locked behind specializations.
Yeah. So, for instance, an assault turret and a flame turret, they're variants of turrets, right?
Yes. They aren't mods of turrets. They are variants.
So they're variants.
Those variants have mod slots on
just like guns do, essentially.
Yeah. And we'll talk about mods and that sort of thing, because they come from different sources. And we'll have Rasmussen tomorrow. Yeah. And he
can talk about that
He'll help us with all of that. Yeah. But I think the variant distinction is something that is easy to miss. So
you mod them.
Yes.
Make them better in various ways, and to power those mods, you need skill power. Yeah. And now you can run with 0 skill power, and then you can't put any mods on your skills, and they'll just be your baseline skills, and they'll be okay. They scale with your level, and that's fine, and they'll do some things. But if you want more power out of it, larger radiuses and more damage and more duration and stuff, then you have to mod them.
Yeah, okay. One of the things also, I guess, to note, what we had in the Division 1 with skill power is there would be a calculation where X skill power affects your skill by that amount, or a multiplier of that amount. We now have a threshold system, right? So if you have a mod on a thing, and say it has a requirement of, let's say 1,000, and you have 1,500, you're not going to get more than
then it's just on.
Yeah, you're not going to get like an extra 50%.
So since I'm here and I'm a game designer, I'm going to go a little nerdy on it about some of the advantages of doing it this way. One is, it's much easier to make sure there aren't, and I'm going to use a bit of a caustic word, but like bad or OP skill builds that are like insta kills and stuff like that have massive spikes in power on, let's say, sticky bombs.
One-shot sticky bombs.
Yeah. Whereas now we know what the highest damage any skill mod can roll, so we know how high the damage can get on any given skill. And that gives us a little bit of a control on making sure that you don't get those degenerate builds, right?
Does it make it easier if you as a game designer to work backwards from the maximum possible output you want to have of the damage of a skill, and then be like, okay.
But the other thing is, in Division 1, if you equipped a pair of gloves with skill power, somewhere, something happened to your skills. like damage went up or whatever.
Yeah.
But you didn't see that. You didn't know what happened
Yeah.
to them. Now, if you want the damage to go up by 10%, you have to go in and equip a plus 10% mod, and you will see the resulting damage, just like you do on a gun or whatever, right? So you'll understand your skills and what they do much better.
Someone said also that I drank out of the wrong cup, but this one doesn't have anything in it. I think I was just doing that magic trick where these cups have switched places, because this is the only thing that has coffee in it.
This is a very desirable mug, by the way.
I know, the Kerman coffee mug.
I want it.
Maybe I should just, anyway, no, next time. Yes, so we'll get to, so that's the skill power and how it relates to mods. Let's go to weapon mods for a little bit, and then there's gear mods, but we'll come to that.
Talk about weapon mods because people are talking about weapon mods.
Yes.
Yes.
Weapon mods, again, are different. And we can kind of leave the gear mods because we have Rasmussen tomorrow to talk about.
We can talk about
that. But weapon mods are different from the
Right.
Division 1. What were some of the key things you wanted to change from that system that you had before?
So there's some things we wanted to accomplish and some things we wanted to avoid. So just for those that haven't checked out the game or whatever, mods now come with a positive and a negative. So they might give you extended mag, which is larger, might give you extra bullets, but also makes it take longer to reload because it's larger.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we try to make them make sense, the positives and negatives.
But it's a game, so some things...
But the reason we wanted to do this is, one, choices are fun. Like just putting things on there that makes everything better and then having that be what you put on all your guns isn't interesting choices, right? What we wanted to accomplish was you want to look at a gun and feel how it recoils and go, this one, I can see myself sacrificing a little bit of damage for a little bit of accuracy because I'm going to be using it like this. Or this one, it reloads so fast anyway, I can put an extended mag on it and like I can live with that extra reload. Like making those choices and tailoring the gun to how you want it to play rather than putting the same mods on everything because they were the highest roll.
Right, like from Division 1.
Yeah, and so that's one thing. The other thing is when you do things, which mods do, that affect weapon handling, it gets bad eventually. Like if you give people enough stability and enough accuracy because you want to roll higher and higher numbers on these things, eventually the guns are dead. Eventually they shoot like lasers and have no recoil and no fun gameplay in them and have super many bullets, and you rarely have to have reload be part of your combat rhythm or whatever. So it's an area where we have to safeguard the core gameplay, which is shooting a little bit, by not having a progressively higher and higher number system like we did before, to make sure that we can tune it and feel like, okay, the guns are good at base, they feel good at base, and if you mod them in all kinds of ways, they still feel good, like they feel different, but we know the numbers, so we know the constraints, and the core gameplay is safeguarded somewhat. And that's, people are a little bit, I think the reason why people don't necessarily jive with the system quite yet is because people get these things as reward. Like they work for them and they get a blueprint even, and then also have to craft the thing, and they feel like, oh, I got the thing, but it has a negative on it. Why would I?
In the private beta, though, I mean, the biggest feedback was that the negatives were big.
Yeah,
right?
We've reduced those. So now you generally get bigger positives than negatives, so you have to make a choice on what you can live with. Yeah. So no, I think people always want something positive when they get something as a reward.
Sure.
But once you have all of them, what they are is essentially a toolbox to modify the guns to behave the way you like them or that fits your play style. If you have something, you have a talent on that requires you to hit all your shots, like one of those that stacks until you miss something. Maybe you really want to mod for accuracy, even if you don't, even if you sacrifice a little bit of crit or something. Yeah. Like, so those pluses and minuses lead to interesting choices and meaningful builds where they're different. And it should even be okay if you like the gun like that to leave a gun blank. You don't have to put all of the mods on them. Guns are tweaked to feel good even at like a raw state. So it's a little bit controversial, but like, we're listening to the feedback. We understand that it might not feel good, and you know, if push comes to shove, we'll revisit the system at some point. But this is what we're launching with. This is what we believe in currently. And as always, it's going to be a dialogue with the players, right?
Well, that's also the thing. I think, and it's great that we've put a beta out that has so much content and so many features in it, but it isn't the whole game either.
No.
So there's, I think, a lot of value in continuing that conversation going forward. So please stick around for that, because there are screeds of mods that haven't been shown.
There's so many mods, right?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of magazines, all kinds of muscles, all kinds of optics and stuff like that, and you'll find things that fit your style or the guns you like eventually. That's the idea anyway.
What and obviously you test a lot of these things. Do you have an example of like your favorite kind of gun loadout and what you personally look for a playstyle that fits you?
I am like a mid-range type of player that likes to see, not quite like sniping, but so I like rifles. I like some of the assault rifles. That kind of range is where I play. So I like rifles that have stability, so that they and accuracy, so that the rhythm becomes really fast, right? Because rifles are all about firing at a rhythm. And then assault rifles with, depending on which gun it is, maybe an extended mag or maybe just something that, because you can kill red bars pretty fast, and assault rifles are very good at killing red bars. Red bars are the enemies that are not elite or veteran and don't have an extra armor bar. Because assault rifles have a bonus damage to health, and that's their health bar. So assault rifles are extra good at killing the hordes of red bar enemies, right? So I like it for that. So then I don't need an extended mag necessarily, because they die before I have to go down and reload anyway. Yeah.
So that's, I guess a big part of your effective DPS calculation. I kind of had that threshold where I think I was using an MP5 yesterday, and I managed to kill. No, I think when I was playing around with it, I would manage to kill like 2.5 within one magazine, and then I
sounds about right.
Changed some attachments, and then when I was able to kill 3 red bars, like by changing around some things,
that feels good.
Like the pacing changes wildly. Yeah. Through
the threshold when you manage to kill 2 with a mag, it's important. So with assault rifles, that's what I like to do. I like to actually run something that increases my reload speed instead, so not an extended mag, because I tend to kill 1, go down, reload, go up, kill maybe 2, go down, reload, maybe not shoot for a long extended time, and those things.
That's cool. So, okay, what's your favorite singular weapon right now? Is it one of those things where it's hard? Does it change over time?
Maybe I really like the way the FAMAS turned out. It used to be, it's the same physical model as one of the exotic weapons from the old game. It was called Bullfrog, I think.
Bullfrog. It was eventually called.
It was eventually called that, but
what was it called initially?
I forget. But anyway, that's a gun I like.
Oh god, my brain. Chat's gonna say in like 2 seconds.
The TAR as well is good, and the MK17 rifle. I like those.
Cool. Favorite bolt action?
Favorite bolt action?
It's called the FAMAS.
It's still gonna be the
Bullfrog. Yeah.
Famous bolt action is one that I haven't seen yet.
Oh no, I was talking about the Bullfrog for a sec.
Yeah.
But yeah, favorite.
Yeah, the previously promised exotic bolt action stuff that we talked about like half a year ago. Yes, that's the one.
Anyway, I'm hoping that we can. We've talked about this.
Yeah, that was revealed a long time ago.
I would love to kind of take a closer look at how that's all put together, and maybe
that
we
would
can
be great.
Make some videos and follow
some behind the scenes.
Yeah, should kind of follow Frederick through about how making these exotic bolt action things works, or just I want to take people behind the scenes of how things are made and get in the game.
That would be so fun.
Future plans. If people would like to see things like that. All right, so brands, because I think one of the things that if people are just jumping into the game now, sorry, Ella's waving at me. You don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, but okay, go on.
No, because one of the discussions today has been gear sets, and I think that's, and we don't need to go into depth on what the brand sets are.
We can talk about how they're different from brands.
Exactly, because when people are playing through the beta, yes, we're going to talk about this tomorrow with Rasmus, but I want to clear up, since people have brought up gear sets.
You can touch on it lightly, leave stuff for Rasmus.
Gear sets and brands are different.
Yes, so
that's all I want to point out.
Yeah, they're different. Specifically, just wanted to say the one thing about brands is that brands are really flexible. You can have one of different brands in every slot, right? Because their bonuses start at the one slot bonus. So you're not losing out if you're not matching up brands. They're thematically, like, they're themed to be good if you have multiple pieces of them. But that's the point. Brands are supposed to be flexible, so you can basically pick gear based on the talents and stuff on them. Whereas gear sets are still about collecting a whole bunch of the same and putting them together and get a big thing out of it. So that's the core difference between brands and sets in the end.
Cool. All right, that's something to do. If you want to find out more about all of that, we'll come back with Rasmus tomorrow to talk about the gear side of this conversation, because there's a lot there.
But we can talk about weapon types and weapon talents.
So just before we finish on the mods stuff, I wanted to go back because one of the things we didn't talk about yet is that they're not as they were in the Division 1 in terms of the sources that they come from. Because you have many different sources. They are not random.
No.
So if you get the mod, you have the mod.
And you only need to get it once, and then you can apply it to all your weapons. It's an unlock of sorts, right?
Yeah, but I think that needs to be made clear, because it's not like if you get the mod and you're like, oh, if I get it again, it's going to have different positives and negatives.
It doesn't have roles, right? Yeah, and that's again because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to keep increasing those numbers and making the guns more and more and more stable as we increase world tiers and things like that. We wanted to know exactly how the mods are tuned, so that the core gameplay feels good.
Do you think this gives you a system where you'll have a bit more oversight on the end game and a bit more ways to keep the balance in check? Or
it does. It also gives us ways to introduce more mods down the line as well, because if there's nothing that does exactly this combo of positives and negatives or this level of accuracy or whatever, we can introduce new things. So it opens up some windows there as well, but there's so many of them at launch, you're going to find things that fit you as well. Yeah,
because in the beta, there's a few sources that you have, and then like when you complete...
In the 1 to 7, yeah.
Yeah, when you complete like a mission, a project you'll get a blueprint for it, so you can craft them. Well, you can craft it once.
You should go there and do that as well. Don't miss out.
Yep, and then also people have often missed in the perks that you can do. There are unlocks in there as well for each slot, I think.
Yeah,
or
pretty much.
A multitude of slots.
Yeah, there's something for assault rifle, 556 ammo, and there's something for SMGs and something, a grip of some sort and stuff like that. So there's plenty of things to get there. And I think the endgame characters, when playing the endgame of the...
I think they have a lot of mods.
They have a lot of mods. Yeah. You can check out a lot of them there.
So you get blueprints from various different...
As rewards. Or...
There's perks. Do you happen to know any of the other sources? I mean, in terms of how these are distributed, that's not really your job.
This is a great question for Rasmus. But
okay.
One of the things about it, though, is when you have one-off experiences, like a side mission or finishing projects or first discovering something, it's great to be able to give a permanent reward.
Sure.
And instead of giving a random rolled mod that you will then throw away, being able to give you that thing that you will then have forever, like to expand your toolbox, is good. We need some of those things in the game as well to be able to have as one-off reward. So they do fill that role for us.
I think, and again, I haven't played through the full game, and I'm actually really excited that I know very little about that core 1 to 30 experience. But from what I can tell, it sounds like there are a multitude more reasons to go out and do all of the side missions, to do all of the exploration,
for sure.
to unlock everything possible. Because so you can get everything in your toolkit, you will have to do a lot of different stuff.
And other reasons, like the world opens up and becomes more alive and dynamic, the more you've cleared out static side missions and things. So definitely it's worth getting out there, unlocking all of the things. And it's a completionist thing. Like, let's be honest, looter games are also appeals to the collector in us.
100%.
And collecting all of them, having a full set, is a good feeling.
So it's weapon mod Pokemon?
A little bit.
All right. I like it. Cool. So we detoured back to mods for a little bit.
Good.
But you wanted to talk about some other things, and now I've forgotten what they
the other aspects of guns, like which weapon types we have and the talents that they have, right?
Yes. So let's go through all of those.
All right, in the beta right now, is the end game mission live?
Yes.
Yeah. So then people will see plenty of talents on weapons in the end game there, right?
Yeah.
Because mostly you don't see talents on guns early. We talked about what's on guns. It's your damage, it's your RPM and mag size and stuff. And then as you go up in quality and you start seeing blue and purple and orange, like high-end and specialized guns and stuff like that, you see talents on the weapons, right?
Yes.
And the talents come in some flavors. And we talked about this on State of the Game way back when, before Christmas, like in November, I think it was.
It was a special report.
Yeah.
What was it?
We're gonna send the game.
We're gonna stay the game.
It was a State of the Game, actually.
All right. Yeah. No, that was not okay. It was that long ago.
Yeah.
All right.
So essentially, you'll see handling talents or like basic talents that do something for your gun that makes it feel different, like one AK-47 feel or AKM feel different from another AKM by rolling some stability or some accuracy or some reload speed or just a talent that just mods the core behavior of the weapon to some degree. It can include some extra bullets and some things like that. Then that's always one slot because we wanted you to always feel that each gun is a little different than the other gun, right? Then the second slot or like position for talents is some active talent, something that does something cool when you shoot.
Cool.
That procs on headshots or stacks up when you hit things or, things like that, or does extra damage to targets on fire, or just these interesting little talents that you have to read about and go, that's interesting, and that should theoretically form a pretty important part of your build and the way you get damage output. Yeah. And they also have a little cool augmented reality view on the gun that hovers next to the gun when you shoot, right? With little stacks or an icon that turns on when you, aim at an enemy on fire, for instance, if you have that talent. So they always have that so that you can pay attention to what the talent is doing.
Okay.
And then the third slot of talent on guns, once you get up to the high-end weapons, they are something, I don't know what we settled for the official name for them, but they do something passive. So they can even do things when the gun is holstered, right? So you can have something that says, when holstered, your armor regenerates when you're in cover, or when you roll, it reloads your other weapon, or just crazy things like that.
Cool.
That are active. Either they come in two flavors, either active only when it's holstered or always, like both when it's holstered.
But they're conditional.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're fun because what happens is you start to care about what gun you wear on your back or even in your sidearm holster, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden that actually does something for you even when you're not using that gun, as opposed to all of the talents in the previous game.
That's cool.
Which makes it really interesting to pick your sidearms and your other guns as well. And so we like that system. And you want, obviously, like always, to get the God roll of everything fitting perfectly, including now both of your holster talents on the off weapons, right? Everything has to roll right for your God build in the end. So that's your gear chase out there.
So, but those talents are unlocked by, and we're going to go into gear mods and that sort of thing with Rasmus tomorrow. But you have to have a certain amount of to make those talents active.
So this is for all talents, even talents on gear. Talents can have requirements.
Yeah.
So most often they will have requirements on the amount of offensive or defensive or utility stats you have on you. So if you have on gear a little row that says plus some amount of weapon damage, that will be an offensive stat, and it'll have a little crosshair next to it in red in the final game. And then it counts the amount of those that you have. And you might need 6 of those to unlock a talent. And what that does is that we can make talents that are, for instance, really defensive and make sure that they don't work on super offensive builds so that you're not both tanky and DPS at the same time. Or we can make things that require you to be quite balanced, or we can make things that act as super good DPS bonuses if you've dived really hard into offensive stats. So, okay, you're clearly offense-oriented. Yeah. This requires 6 offensive stats to unlock, and you're going to get some cool damage bonus. So it kind of allows us to tailor talents towards niches and builds a little bit.
Okay, is it fair to say that that system will help push people towards, I don't know, like the flavor that you're trying to get through in that play style, or like?
Yeah, so I think it does two things. It acts as a guide, where clearly something works best in an offensive context. Like if it's something that procs on critting, you're gonna need some crit chance, and so for it to require some offensive stats, kind of guides you in that direction. But then also it can act as a limitation where we want it. So we have some that like just requires you to not have more than X number of offensive stats, for instance, because it's a really defensive talent.
Okay.
But then there are some other one-offs. Like there are some talents that just require you to maybe not have any other talents that affect your med kits, because only one talent can do, or armor kits. Or there are some talents that require you to only equip semi-auto weapons and no full auto weapons. Okay. And they will say that. It will just explicitly say that that's what's required.
That's cool.
And we can do, going forward, we can do whatever types of requirements turns out to be fun. But this is the base layer we start with, the counting of the offensive, defensive, and utility stats.
All right. That makes sense.
Well, when describing it, it actually sounds more complex than when you see it, because when you see it, you just see all of these little dots everywhere, and then it just counts them up. Oh, I have 6 of these, and that's what that talent requires. Yeah. It's pretty intuitive once you get in there.
Yeah, I think that's going to help a lot with people's build confusion, right? I think, like we said before, we're kind of a bit too close to it, that it can kind of feel like sometimes the Division's a complex game. There's a lot there. And
we try to grow you into it through, increasing complexity gradually.
I mean, you have the whole campaign to play through.
Yeah, but
there's a lot there.
I think
yes. There is a lot. I mean, we
want to talk about all of the things.
I know.
Hopefully, Yannick is right, and maintenance is till 12:30. I mean, not for these guys that want to play, but for us.
I like chatting about this stuff. But yes, specializations is the next thing on the list. Yeah. We have in the beta, and those are something that people have experienced already, 3 specializations: sharpshooter, demolitionist, and survivalist. Yep. And those were revealed long ago at E3.
And we've announced that there's going to be more coming during the year. Right?
Yes. So we can't talk about those yet, but people have seen things in the trailer.
Then people can make their own assumptions. I'm not going to confirm anything until we've nailed it down.
No, and I kind of have the community perspective on this, because I have been, working away on some other stuff. So I don't actually have confirmation that what I think is coming is actually what's coming.
What I can say is that all of the specializations try to be a play style.
Yes.
So demolitionist that wants to cause chaos everywhere. We have the survivalist that's more about control and support, and we have sharpshooter, which is obviously about sniping and precision. And when you try to line up the different ways you can play a shooter, you can see some things that might be missing there, and you can fill in the blanks.
Yes. The blanks that have been filled in, and again, I'm not going to say what they are, and again, like I say, I don't know for a fact, but there is an echo-looking thing in there that leads people to believe one certain thing. What that? And also, someone picked something out of a loot box in the trailer. Oh,
that's actually when you open the crossbow, because then it points to all of the components. It says bow and,
Okay, so was that? But that's the demolition.
That's the survivalist.
The
crossbow.
Survivalist, sorry.
Yeah, that's just in the trailer. That's just them opening the survivalist crossbow when they first get it.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's good to know, because I think people have drawn different conclusions from that.
There is currently no bow coming.
So it's not a composite bow.
Not at the moment.
All right, good. Okay, well, you heard it here first. But that does lead us to. I want to talk more about each of the specializations, because there's a lot going on there. And skill trees are something that, yes, they've been talked about a little bit. But
people have broken them down.
Sure, but we have you here, so let's
talk about them.
Let's talk about that. And also, there's some videos that Ella has queued up. Can we take a look at the demolitionist skill tree video, and we'll chat about that one. So, at what point is the player looking at this skill tree? This is, I hit max level.
So Just got a caveat that we're looking at a dev who's unlocked it. That's why it says minus 157, because they cheated and didn't have the points. So when they unlocked everything, they ended up at a negative value. So
let's assume they've maxed everything out. They have 0 points available.
Ignore that. So what we're looking at here is the specialization tree for demolitionists that you get access to once you hit 30 and finish the last mission, right? Okay. And then you get to go into that tree and spend points. And you get points through various means. And there's 160 points to gather for each spec.
Can you talk about the means by which you get them?
So you're going to, when you first play through the content that the Black Tusk represents, so essentially the world tiers and the invaded everything, you're going to get some lump sums of these points, right? Okay. For doing that the first time. But you also keep getting these points when doing any activity in the game. So similar to how you would get proficiency caches, right? Okay. So you're going to keep getting points just by playing the game, whatever it is you want to be doing as well. So even if you've played through the world tiers and you maybe switch specialization because you want to try something else or you filled it already, then you can just play whatever and points will keep ticking in.
Okay, but you'll start each specialization from 0.
You'll start each spec from 0. The points that go into each spec is earned when that spec is equipped and stay within that spec. So you can't move points or anything like that.
Okay, so if I invest, let's say, 100 points into Demolitionist, and I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I wanna try out, Sharpshooter. Yeah. I'll start that at 0.
You'll start with some things. You'll get your gun, obviously. You'll get the talent that allows you to get some extra ammo for the gun, etc. So you'll get the base layer of what the experience is. But then you start at 0.
Okay. But then let's say I want to go back to Demolitionist.
Then your 100 points are waiting for you.
Okay. Yeah. What is the condition for switching? Like,
you have to be at the quartermaster, and if you're on PC, you have to have a mouse and keyboard connected to your computer. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So you can switch.
Or a controller.
Yeah, you can switch whenever you like at the quartermaster. You can't switch out in the fields because we want you to fill that role when you're out in the field.
So you can't be like mid-combat, like I want to fire a grenade.
We kind of want you to group up and see, oh, that guy's a spec, is this spec and this spec, and then know that they're going to be that for the duration, so that you can kind of play roles. But at the quartermaster, you can switch whenever you want. Is
there a cost?
There's no cost. Okay. You can respec, get all your points back if you're like part way through and pick other things.
Is there a cost for that?
Nope.
Okay.
So
good to know.
So just to touch lightly on the high level of specializations, what we wanted was something that added a layer of fun stuff for your play style without removing from the gear game that we had. And the gear game that we had was classless, right? Like you can still wear any gear with these specializations. Sure. You can do all of the builds. You can be a sharpshooter with
SMGs.
With SMGs and the healing seeker, and you can do all of that, and maybe that's good.
Wait, is the healing seeker locked behind the survival?
No, yeah, right. You couldn't do that. You could do the healing chem launcher.
Whoa.
You could do the healing chem launcher, but I'm saying you could fill whatever role the gear game allows you, regardless of your spec. Your spec is something that enhances your play style because a lot of people like to play with precision and sharpshooting. It's a good word to stumble on. So, sharpshooters for them, etc., right? So we're not trying to reduce the flexibility here. And that's what was great about Division 1 was you had this immense flexibility because you didn't have classes.
Sure.
And that's why when we made specializations, we still wanted it to be flexible, like free to switch, free to respec, etc.
Cool. Can we take a look at the survivalist skill tree as well? I do have some other questions about these skill trees. One question I have is, do you
Agent, get there when you can. I'll be standing
a maximum
by
total amount of points that you can get?
You get all of
we're just about ready to reactivate the shade network.
Like, can I unlock
sure
everything?
you'd like to be here to see the whole
There's not going
thing
to be a
through.
trade-off like I have to choose to
They'll be
go
waiting
down
for you in the
this
control
certain
room.
branch
No.
before I max out.
We explored that, but at the end of the day, we kind of liked the gameplay when you had all of these things and all of these tools fleshed out. And it just made sense to us to allow you to get all of them. So they fulfill this other thing that Specializations is about, which is you get to the end game, so you're not leveling anymore, but you're leveling this thing. So you kind of feel comfortable that you're still progressing a thing, comfortably, just like when you were leveling. So it makes it easier to transition into endgame in a way, because like, hey, I'm dinging things, I'm progressing something. So we wanted you to just progress to the maximum because we like that journey and it's fun.
Cool. I think fun's important.
Yes.
So it's good to
often important.
Focus on fun. What are some of the things
Right.
in the skill tree? Because I mean, we see here just a lot of icons, right?
Yeah.
Can we also just bring up the last one? My favorite, and I'm self-conscious about how I say this word now because Ella teases me for saying sharpshooter.
That was good.
Right, it's okay. All right, can you bring up the sharpshooter skill tree? What are some of the things that we can unlock in this? Obviously, we see the drone skill that is locked behind the sharpshooter specialization, which is the
surveyor.
The surveyor, which
spots
targets.
things. It just stays up there. It acts as a permanent pulse, essentially, right?
So we see that it gets the graphene battery, then a carbon fiber frame.
So if we look at the tree, essentially there's some categories of things. So everybody gets, if they want, a unique grenade. Everybody gets a unique skill variant and some mods for that skill variant, so that they can that fits that skill variant well. So radius and duration for the surveyor, I think, for instance. Okay. Everybody gets their own unique sidearm, just because it's cool to have and nice to have something unique in your pocket. Everybody gets a special talent for how to get some extra spec ammo, a little skill challenge. So for the sharpshooter, it's through headshots, and for the demolitionist, it's through explosions, etc. So there's a little talent to gain more than the natural drops that occur. Then there's a little talent for a similar challenge that can grant your group extra signature ammo.
That's cool.
So you can provide your group with that through playing skillfully. Then another repurposed word or phrase from the first game. There's something called a signature. There's something called a link, right? Which tactical link. So we used to call the signature abilities tactical links back in the day, right? But we've repurposed that word. Yeah. So tactical link is a link you have to your group members that will give them buffs depending on how you play. So for the sharpshooter, if you're the furthest from enemies of your group, then everybody gets extra headshot damage.
Ooh, okay.
So
cool.
It's this tactical, as I said, link. It's like trying to really...
So, okay, you say, I like this example.
Yeah.
Do you know the other ones off the top of your head for the others?
Absolutely. Right, so the demolitionist, because the demolitionist is all about causing chaos and explosions and things. So what they excel at is flushing enemies out of cover. So everybody gets bonus damage to targets out of cover. And then for the survivalist, everybody gets bonus damage to targets that have status effects.
Cool.
Because you tend to be good at inflicting those, and your own talents kind of capitalize on those.
That's really cool. I mean, now I think like a lot of other people, like, what are the other specializations and what can they do? But again, that's a future thing that we will talk about. We're going to take some questions from chat.
Good.
Kind of soon.
Yeah.
So I think with specializations, obviously there are some things that don't apply to them. You get your unique weapon, but it doesn't function like other weapons. You can't mod that weapon.
No,
it's
its own thing, that it lives in its own slot, so it doesn't replace any of your existing weapons. It doesn't niche you in like that. And you can't mod it, but you can upgrade it in the tree, like in damage, so that you can keep up with the world tiers as they grow. And all of them come with some pretty unique capabilities to begin with. So the 50 cal can shoot through enemies and explode weak points on the way out of enemies in their back, and shoot through multiple enemies if you manage to line them up. So they're kind of more like toys rather than the guns in general. Yeah,
that's cool. So we're gonna got some questions coming in from chat. I was gonna pick a bunch of those in a sec. I'll have a look through here. Someone was saying, so you look bad if you use an SMG as secondary on a sharpshooter. You can do it, but maybe it doesn't make sense for most people. I mean, there might be an edge case where that does make sense depending on...
I think the sharpshooter even has bonus SMG damage, if I'm not mistaken, just to be able to protect themselves in close quarters. And then you have to figure, what if that SMG has a really good holster talent that helps you shoot with your marksman rifle?
You can have holster talents on SMGs?
You can have holster talents on all guns.
I was only thinking about that for sidearms.
No, it's for all guns. So for the gun that sits on your back, that SMG, you can have a holster talent that really helps you out if you're a sharpshooter.
Interesting. There is a question from chat. Are there gear brands that are viable for support builds?
I think so. So support is generally tries to lean into skills, right? There are talents on guns that can do supporty things and give buffs to your friends, etc. But mostly you're going to want to have support skills with lots of punch in them. So the booster hive and the various ways of healing things, they would be good for support, right? And then support is also a lot about controlling, right? Like if you can control the battlefield and cause status effects and stuff like that, like a survivalist can, there's lots of gear that helps with that as well.
Yeah.
So I would say that there's lots of support play, and I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the raid, but you're going to have to support each other when you're playing raids and hard content in our game. So yeah, that's definitely something we're making the gear game support.
Keep in mind, there are also skills that we haven't put out there for people to try yet. There's only been 4 that people have tried. There are other ones that are different, and we won't talk about those in depth today.
But people know that.
I mean, they've seen what they are.
People know that there is a skill called the Firefly.
I was just going to bring up the Firefly
because they've seen it in the menu, and I will say that the Firefly is pretty
That's my favorite.
Support oriented.
Yeah, it's support oriented. It's cute as hell. A bit of historical lesson. People who have been around a long time will have seen
a Firefly.
They would have seen a skill in the 2014 trailer that we released at E3, where the player fights outside the post office.
Yeah, releases.
And there's a little thing that does a little strobe effect. Now that's not the Firefly in the Division 2, but there's a was a Firefly.
There's a connection.
Yes,
for sure. I think it's not very long, correct me if I'm wrong, Ella, until we can dive into talking and showing things more about those skills in the near future, right?
Soon. But yes, that is an example of something that is going to be
but there's support,
supporty.
Yeah, but there's support things in the game, and it's important for us. It's also important that everybody still gets to be someone who shoots a gun. Like, you're not going to be sitting there only healing or repairing with a chem launcher or whatever, but you'll still be shooting, and you'll have things that proc that helps your team instead of maybe boosting damage, for instance.
Cool. I see a bunch of other questions. So server update. The servers. Yannick was in here before. We all actually initially thought that the servers were going back up at 12. It might be a 12:30 thing. We're kind of just waiting to see if it's between now or 12:30. So stick around, because over the next 30 minutes we will find out.
But we'll
we'll make sure as soon as we get a message, like, you can leave. And don't worry about us. We'll be fine.
Yeah, there's a VOD.
No, but actually, Ella's going to be playing the game. So stick around and watch her be... Why were you so bad yesterday?
Oh.
What happened?
Shots fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
But at least people know that server maintenance isn't just for show. They're actually doing things, and it takes time.
C.52 asked in chat, and I think I know the answer, but clip or magazine, in terms of words, they mean different things.
Oh yeah, so a clip is a very seldomly used thing where you clip a bunch of ammo into a little holder, usually to either fast fill a magazine, which is this box that goes under a weapon, or in some rare cases, like the Mosin Nagant, you actually use a stripper clip to feed your gun.
Okay.
But clip is a very different thing than a magazine, so normally magazine.
Okay. So in most cases for us, it's magazine as it pertains to our game.
Yes, unless you're using a Mosin Nagant.
that's the only gun in the Division 2
Yes,
where that
as
uses
as a
clip?
stripper clip.
See, I don't know all about this stuff. Do you know more about weapons than you ever did? I mean, you worked
I
on
know more
Battlefield.
about weapons than I wanted to.
Yeah. Because this isn't the first game with weapons that you've worked on. You worked
No.
on Division 1, you worked on Battlefield, you worked on a
Mirror's
bunch
Edge.
of... Mirror's Edge, there you go. Another question from chat. Where to leave feedback? Where can you leave feedback about, for example, skill controls? Because I know people have had a little bit of confusion, actually going back to the private beta, about how the Bombardier drone would work.
Right.
And also...
Actually, so first of all, do leave feedback on the UB forums, on the beta forums, and beta threads. When it comes to skill controls, we do plan to polish up and rework some of those things. Specifically, the ones that we will be updating is the sniper turret. We're going to be revamping that. We're also improving some quality of life with the chem launcher going forward.
and then I was a little bit confused with that. And I think there's also a bug with that in the beta where it kind of was... I would
keeping you up
do
to
it, and I couldn't cancel. I mean, it was probably my own thing.
We'll definitely keep working on them, even though the game's out.
Of course. Yeah, that was cool. The chem launcher was. I know Ella kept messing it up, but I don't know if it was her fault or just a fat fingering everything.
I think the chem launcher is pretty good on controller right now, but it is maybe lacking a little bit of finesse on mouse and keyboard.
Cool. Another question. Why doesn't the FAMAS have a magazine slot?
Because there are magazines for various calibers, and the FAMAS is an odd one.
Okay, cool. This is a question from me. The org has changed. Class? Weapon type?
No, we have an additional one.
It's an additional one. Okay.
Yeah. So we still have all of the SMG or 9mm AUGs that have a little straight magazine.
Yeah.
But we also added the more classical AUG that has the big fat magazine, which is the assault rifle.
Okay. Cool. There
are some weapons that have jumped class.
Like what?
So, for instance, lightweight M4, which when you look at it is more of a competition AR-15. So now it's called a competition LAR-15, and that's a rifle, so it's semi-automatic.
Yes, because there's obviously weapon types, but excuse me if I'm wrong. So marksman rifles and rifles are different.
Yeah. So rifles are all of the normal, just semi-auto rifles you would find if you scavenged around in an American city, right?
All right.
So
have you done that before?
Scavenged around in an American city? No, but I have gone over to shooting ranges in the US and fired a bunch of these weapons. So we just quickly on rifles, the reason we added them is not only because of that thematic, it's just they're also hella fun to shoot and they fill a niche. We always kind of like the sort of Halo battle rifle style of gun, kind of experimented with the urban MDR in the last game.
Yeah.
But they needed their own category so they could have their own unique bonuses and things like that.
Okay, cool. Does enemy armor damage affect PvP, or is it PvE only?
Armor damage. Do we even have armor damage as a role anymore? Just counter question.
I don't know.
If it does, yes, then it would.
Because those are attributes, not stats.
Yeah. So attributes and stats are sort of the same.
Sort of the same.
Yeah,
but they apply in different ways. So some will.
Just if there's enemy armor damage rolling, it'll affect any armor bar. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, that's a different distinction I was trying to make.
For instance, so the equivalent thing is that assault rifles have damage to health, and that applies in PvP. So once you're down to someone's health bar, they do extra damage.
Just a question. I mean, I've fired a few guns in my life before, but nothing mega serious, some Glocks and things at some ranges. You have probably fired some things that are a lot more terrifying. What's
terrifying?
What's the most serious machinery you've fired where you were I don't know.
It's much harder than I would have thought to fire full auto high caliber things. Like a G36 at full auto is very difficult to control. I know there are people out there watching now and going, I can do it. Yeah, sure, you can, but I couldn't, right? It's difficult. And then one of our designers over at Red Storm, he owns a M1 Garand, like you see in Band of Brothers or whatever, with all of this wood, and it's so heavy. Yeah. It's all of this heavy wood and thick metal from back in the 1940s. And it is it kicks like a mule. That's a scary weapon to fire.
Yeah. Well, man, there's actually a video that went up I saw on Twitter yesterday that the Division posted of the Specializations, the IRL versions of those.
Yes. They do some serious things.
Damn. If anyone hasn't seen that, go check out the Division on Twitter because there's lots of explosions.
They were talking about the 50 cal being made for shooting down airplanes and stuff. Yeah. But another thing about the 50 cal was that people, horrible war stuff, but they used it to shoot out engine blocks. And like if there's a motorcade of things and they want to stop it, they'd shoot the engine block because it's powerful enough to crack an engine block, right? Wow. And then all of them need to stop. But then horrifyingly, they figured out that if they use it and shoot at a person in the middle of a group of people, that person will shrapnel from the overpressure and damage everybody around them as well. Oof. Yeah, it's gruesome. Which is though why, even though it's not very visible, the 50 cal in our game, every time it hits some person, there is actually a slight damage radius around it as well. Yeah,
that's I mean, it's cool that you are able to put real life.
It's gruesome,
things,
but yes.
But that's a lot. I'm seeing that people are saying that they are up. The servers are up, so people are getting back in. I still want to answer a few questions.
This is a good question.
So if you want to go play, go fill your boots and do all that.
Yep.
But we're going to stick around for a few more minutes because there are a few more questions coming in, and then we're going to be up and playing the game in just a second. But this is a good question. What's the purpose of the damage to elites stat?
So if you want to be the guy that kills elites fast, then you get that. But I think that there's more to the question because the damage to elites in the old game was just damage because everybody was an elite when you were playing harder difficulties or endgame. Now, when we do harder difficulties, not all the enemies are elites. You'll still see a mix of quick to kill red bars and some veterans and some elites. So it becomes a choice. Like, am I the guy who focuses on the bosses, or am I the guy who is efficient at clearing the assault troopers around?
I guess we would call those trash mobs.
Yeah. So, but the other thing is, if you're asking for PvP, it doesn't do anything when you're shooting at another player. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Here we have another question. Any plans on tweaking the healing feature, aka speeding it up? So again, it's slightly different because they're not med kits, and I guess it's going to take a while for us to kind of remove that legacy.
We'll keep saying heal.
Because it's not healing. You have healing and repair. Because you do have healing through regen. That does exist. But repairing. Because one of the questions so I guess the follow-up to that is we have had people saying, I can't run and repair my armor. So what's the thinking behind that from a game design perspective?
The thinking behind it is that that's a core way of getting armor that's available to everyone. And if that is too quick or too good, that doesn't leave any space for us to do other interesting ways to get armor. Like, why would I pick a talent that grants me a bunch of armor back if I can instantly do it with packs? Why would I want someone with a repair chem launcher, or why would I want a repair drone, etc.? So it's right for the pacing of the game when you're playing it to the way we've tweaked it, but then you can get all of those things on top of it if you need extra things, and that means the gear game becomes more interesting because you can get those things. It creates design space is what we like to call it. But we do like, even at bare bones, even at level 5 or whatever, if you go into PvP or any PvE, we do like the pacing and the speed it is at right now. It creates a good combat rhythm. It creates the right amount of tension at the moment.
I was just going to say, I really appreciate the tension you have when you you manage to actually get out of line of sight of someone and you have no health or armor left, and you're like, come on, I need to do that. I think also a lot of these conversations that we're having right now, as it pertains to the beta, are it's great that we have them now, but it's also not the full picture because the game isn't out yet. So this is just the start of it.
And we don't want to use that hey, you haven't played the whole game caveat too much. But yes, there's plenty of ways to build survivability in the game, and just using armor kits isn't the whole survivability solution.
Exactly. I think I'm just really interested to see that this is the thread of the start of the conversation, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the response from people who have played the beta, and then they play through the whole 1 to 30, and then they start playing through the end game. What their impressions are of how that.
And if it turns out that nobody likes it ever,
okay.
then we'll
then
listen.
we have a problem.
Yeah, then we'll listen and do something.
Yes. Let me see if I've got any other questions here. My chat's kind of broken. Are you saying that division agents are not elites?
Oh.
Wow.
Burn.
Rude.
That's good, actually. Maybe it should apply to division agents.
Yes. Okay. Do we have anything else in here? Sorry, my chat's a little bit broken, but I... All right. Some people, Schwack Snack, or whatever that name was, don't like the game. That's totally cool.
It's okay.
There will probably be other games that you like. That's absolutely fine. Okay, Gluegite, fishing for information. A lot of people like survival mode. Again, that's not a conversation for today.
Let's launch this game and I'll play through it first, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
About what comes in the future.
I mean, but also don't stop telling us what it is that you get excited about.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I've made no secret that survival is my favorite mode in the Division 1.
It's many people's favorite jam.
Like, it's super cool.
Yeah.
No, Ella, I'm not asking people if pineapple on pizza is their thing. That's not a question. Chat ask.
It's a way to end a chat.
Okay, fine.
Is to talk about pineapple on pizza.
That can be the last thing that I ask you, and we'll see what happens. Pineapple on pizza, Frederick?
I'm going to say what I said on Bombshell Jackets. Pizza is not a food, it's a platform. You can have whatever tickles your fancy on there.
You like to mod your pizza?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, I'm going to make people even madder in saying that, like, I only eat vegan pizza, and they're just going to, like, riot. Wow, okay.
Is pineapple vegan?
Yes, but but now we're even getting to the next level of controversy that it needs to have cheese that isn't made from cow stuff. Mad. Super mad. All right, so we aren't going anywhere. What we are going to do is we'll wrap up this little section, and then we're going to be heading over 3 meters that way, and Ella's going to be playing the game for a few hours. So stick around. We'll be hanging out and talking about as much as we can and playing the game.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming in, Frederick.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait, we have Rasmus tomorrow. Are you popping back in?
I can.
All right. That'd be cool.
Yep.
I think it's always good to have you here, and if you're free, that'd be great.
Happy to be here. It's fun to finally be able to talk about the game freely.
Oh man, it's
such a relief.
So nice, and I can't wait to over time get a little bit further. So Ella's running around in the background, making sure that we are able to jump in. I can stall. It's like I put it on my LinkedIn, like that I
you're good at stalling.
I can stall the best of them. Yes. Someone. Yeah. Again, the pineapple on pizza thing seems to have made
that just bombed the chat.
Very mad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
Sorry, everyone.
Chat.
I finished my coffee. I need to go get some more. Yeah, I'll fix your audio in just a second.
I think it's interesting people talk about this armor thing in PvP because I saw a video from Jessamine where he was 1v4ing people in the Dark Zone. And for the people that say you can't do that anymore, just go check out that clip.
Basically, Frederick's saying get good. Wow. No, but it is a thing. And again, this is, like I said before.
I didn't say it, I just meant it.
Okay. This is the start of the conversation. And again, this isn't the end game Dark Zone.
No.
This is so things will, change over time as people start to figure out, or not figure out, but as a meta starts to coalesce. Because I love that, I don't know, it seems like like a biological thing. Like you can predict metas as much as you want.
But it's not going to happen.
But you will never know until that kind of mass computing of the community is starting to figure it out.
I think, though, that the way we've made things this time around is going to, at least at the start, make for a much more diverse meta. There's lots of fun talents. There's lots of fun stats. There's lots of fun builds. Are people going to find broken stuff? Like broken in internet parlance where it's too good? Sure. People will find some build that becomes the meta. And maybe we'll buff other stuff. Maybe we'll adjust. But we'll be there. We'll be playing. We'll get hurt as well.
Of course, and metas will shift over time.
Yeah.
That is just the nature of any game online that has people and things that have variation. That is just it's the case, and that's what makes games fun. I'm gonna go out there and say that. I've been playing a lot of Viper mid in Dota right now because that is hardcore the meta. Like it's a game that's been out for a long time and is
still the meta shifts.
Of course, the meta shifts.
Subtle things can do it as well.
Yeah, and that's super fun. I like it.
We're also almost to a man, every developer that made this game will keep working on it and keep adjusting and keep looking at it and like keep listening and keep watching the community play as we go live. So we will be able to respond and change things as they're needed.
Yes, cool. Question: how do you like working for Blizzard? This is Ubisoft. I did work for Blizzard, but that was a while ago. It was fun. I liked it.
We have several people who used to work for Blizzard.
There's a few.
Yeah.
Is Division 1 still going to be supported? Yes. Yes. What else do we have here? Hi, Red Scorpio. How you doing? Yeah. Ella, what's the story? We're in.
Yep.
You wanna play the game?
Ella's in.
Yep.
All right. We're gonna switch.
I'm gonna have you sit there first and do your magic.
Yeah, I can do that. Can we just switch to that kind of blank screen that I have for like a couple of seconds and maybe just mute these microphones? That'd be cool.
Okay. So say goodbye.
Bye.
Or
Well, not bye. We'll just be over there. All right. See you in like 2 seconds, everyone.